Welcome to the Select Board meeting for Monday, January 13th. We'll call to order at 6:40 p.m. First item of business is review of the draft political activity by town employees policy. Third read. Discussion, motion.
I don't have any discussion on that one.
No discussion here.
The changes from last time. Just double check one more time.
They should be highlighted in red.
Yeah, public. Yep, there's those. The end. Yeah, it was pretty cut and dry. Want a motion?
Yes, if you're both good.
Make a motion to approve policy ADM-030, political activity by town employees policy, effective January 13th, 2025, as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Review of draft political activity by elected and appointed officials. Third read.
Same thing. It was very minimal.
No discussion here.
Motion to approve ADM-031, political activity by elected and appointed officials policy, effective January 13th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Review and issuance of the 11th water commitment for FY25.
Thank you for correcting that.
It looks like everything lines up now.
As far as I could tell.
Review of meeting minutes for March 14th, 2022 and January 6th, 2025.
It was a blast from the past going back to
Yeah,
2022.
and we'll handle them separately.
Yeah, of course. All right. I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from Monday, March 14th, 2022, as written.
I will second that. Any discussion?
I had none.
Nor did I. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I will abstain from that vote.
Abstain. Thank you. Did you get that, Bets? Yeah. Thank you. And then January 6th, 2025.
Make a motion to approve minutes from Monday, January 6th, 2025, as written.
Second.
Any discussion?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Review and potential approval of procurement for capital planning software. Did we carry this in the agenda for the joint as well?
No,
Okay.
not this one.
And yeah, I couldn't remember if it was in the table.
Let me double
It's
check.
okay.
I know it didn't get listed up.
It didn't get listed there, but yeah, I don't remember if it was in the table on the guidance.
No, it's not in the guidance.
It's not, okay. So we can always continue discussing later if there's questions or we need to.
Of course.
So Brian, you put this in together on behalf of the Capital Planning Committee.
Correct.
I know they voted to recommend or request to look into this, obviously, and not having a budget we talked about already.
Right.
My recollection was discussing if there was capacity to do it now within the existing budgets, and that we felt this was town-wide, so we'd put it in IT.
And
In terms of an annual operating
And I was going to
piece.
say, and there is enough in.
So I think we probably can, yes. The piece that this doesn't cover is I thought the setup was higher than that. No?
2,800 for a setup. Not too bad, actually.
No, it's not.
No.
Okay. I thought it was 13 and 10. not
Right.
3 and 10. So
And
Yeah.
just to clarify that the annual subscription is for the 2 modules.
planning and budget
Right.
book.
Budget book. Right.
Okay. Do you know when? Maybe I missed it. The annual kicks in. Is it after setup's complete, or is it?
That's my understanding once it's launched.
Okay.
And then there's a 3% increase annually.
And your thought was to launch effective immediately if it's approved?
Well,
Or-
I mean, there's setup and work, and
That's what I
I
mean.
know
like,
you said
know,
something about this
Trying to do this.
fiscal, and I don't think that's like.
That's what I was
I
getting
don't-
at.
so-
Is I'm not sure if that makes sense to try and launch it right now in the midst of
So
budget season.
there's no data to put into the system to transfer from another system. There's no transfer. What there is the training. There's the single sign-on that needs to be created. And I want to make light of that work, but that really is that's the launch. The capital requests are going to have to be manually put in, and it doesn't make sense to put back data in at this point. So the only thing that I would propose if you were to implement is just the capital plan that you all support. So through the next 4-5 meetings, as you
As we
start to
approve.
craft your budget with the capital planning committee and FinCom, the projects that you're recommending for budgeting would be the ones that would be loaded into the system. And then later this summer, when we have time, we can backfill the things that make
to
sense
show the historical.
and get prepared for next year.
Okay.
I'm not thinking that there's training for staff at this point. It's really just capital planning and myself working on that for that portion of the launch. In terms of the budget book, I'm going to be building it in Word, which is a manual process, or I'm going to be building it in somewhere else. So where you tell me to build it is the only thing I need to know. So yes, there's work in there, but there will be work to build the budget book, because there's always work to build the budget book. And that's not something that other people have to be involved with this year. In next future years, that may look different. But
So when you said launch, that's when we kind of finish the setup, or that's when we start the setup process?
my
Kind of that
understanding is
separate
when
fee.
it's the launch is complete.
Complete?
But again, I
Okay.
think it's going to be brief.
I guess. Well, what do you guys think?
I'm not opposed to it. My question is just about timing, and he started to answer some of those questions. If there's a usefulness coming out of it for this year, and the lift to put it in is not great, fine. I mean, I hear what you're saying about just doing the active for this coming budget cycle
it.
that we're approving for next year's for the July 1, start.
Right.
Getting those loaded in and then backfill for context and
Right.
historical data later. I'm fine with that. We'll have to build that into the operating for that line item for IT,
Right.
because I'm sure it's not in there now and doesn't have the capacity for it.
Probably not.
Yeah. So as we get to that, we'll have to update that before it gets presented. Is there a downside of doing it now from your standpoint? Because, like you said, you're going to be the one doing the lift along with capital planning, and I would lean on you as part of capital planning too. Is that lift worth it? Is there enough bang for your buck to get it done quickly in this fiscal year?
I think for capital, the benefit will come in the future budgeting cycles when they can talk strategically over multiple years and allow themselves to collaborate better with department heads and be in more control of the submissions. Right now, they don't have that level of access. So it probably won't feel super beneficial for this stage. It would have been helpful probably 2 months ago.
Right.
Right. But I think we could also look at it as an opportunity for sort of training and a little trial and error. So they become comfortable with administering the system. Going forward, I assume that the capital planning committee would really administer their own process, which to date has all just flowed through our office, but it would give them some autonomy to run that process themselves.
And the other piece? The digital budget book piece?
The digital budget book, I think the real benefit, again, it's a manual long process, so that work is there. Doing it in a Word document versus doing it in a database is really indifferent to me. I think the benefit there's a lot of questions that you all get asked on the floor. Residents have questions, and so there are certain analysis, graphs, charts that we can put together in advance, like we've always done. All of those have been manually figured out in like an Excel spreadsheet, and then we translate them in. But you may also have a question that hasn't been answered by those charts. And my understanding of the demos that I've seen for the digital budget book, there are aspects of those tools that if a citizen wanted to run, that data just slightly different. It's the same data, but reconfigure it, do a different comparison. It gives them those options.
In real time.
In real time. And doesn't mean that a data request has to come into the office to be processed, doesn't mean that we have to do something on town meeting floor. They can do it through their own review on their time. So I would assume that the voters, especially those who have a lot of budget questions, would benefit from being able to do their own data review when it's convenient for them.
But your take from what you've seen was it's the same or less work than what you're going to do anyway for the budget book today, you think?
Correct. The narrative portion for me is cut, paste, and formatting, and then, proofreading, which is what will still happen.
Yeah.
The data has always been in Excel and then manipulated into the Word document, which is what I would do this year. This is going to take a data extract out of the budget module. Once you get me to the stage where you say this is the budget that we want to present to the voters, there'll be a data extract that comes out, gets uploaded into the system. And
So
then
it's
the
not really a
tables
downside, is what I'm hearing. There's an upside.
I mean, the SSO lift, it's there, but it's not significant either.
right.
So just to concur on the IT side.
Okay.
My only concerns are capacity and funding. If we have both, then I'd be in favor of
Well,
moving.
Funding, I think, is a little bit of when it goes live, which is why
Well,
I was
that's what-
asking
that's
that
what you're asking,
question.
like-
Because, is it July 1 for, the annual starts? That would be ideal. Maybe we can talk to them too about what that looks like. And,
You can ask.
Yeah,
if
it
we're
was
not
just-
really, too into it until, April anyway. I don't know.
That's what I was going to ask is, were your questionings about whether or not we can just spend the 28 for the startup out of the current appropriation and then pause and just let it sit and not activate the go live for the extra
Right.
10,000,
Or
the
maybe
annual
we do.
subscription?
Yeah, I don't know what that looks like. Maybe we do.
Or is there a partial annual subscription because it is,
Or can, actually, that's not a horrible ask.
Prorated
depending,
between-
could we prorate just 3 months or something and
so we can get
do
some testing
setup
on
through
it?
Q1, pay a 3-month partial, and then kick off an annual with a July 1 start?
Okay. Do you want me to get all of those answers
Something.
before you make a decision?
I mean, I think there's capacity either way.
Yeah.
And I think when the annual starts is going to depend on how fast we move, too. But we have
Correct.
control of that.
Correct.
My other comment was going to be if we get into it and there isn't capacity or it's more or whatever that looks like, we don't have to use it. We
That's
don't have
correct.
to implement it in time for annual because it's a nice to have. And it's more than we plan to. So if we find it's more than we expected during the setup phases, then we can pause and resume in July, August.
So you want to do it in 2 steps then? You want to do a motion to engage for the setup only? Because we need to authorize something.
Yeah,
Or
I
you
mean,
wanna-
I think we can authorize the whole thing, whether we do it in this fiscal year partially, fully, or not. Will just kind of depend on timing and what options we have from them. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And then we can dynamically figure out what that is, but we'll have up to, which will allow it to kick off. And I mean, if it's really accelerated and we're like full going by April 1 and need to be using it, then so be it.
Got it.
Is there a sense of urgency to get it moved tonight that like you could start working immediately, or would it make a huge difference if we got answers to the follow-up questions to say, well, we could have a prorated year, or maybe on a long shot, out of the goodness of their heart, they'd say, we'll do the setup and investment, and come April or May, it's only a couple of months, and we can just roll you into July 1. I don't.
The question is whether or not you want to use it this year. I think if you get farther into the budget cycle, where the sort of the landing strip to get this all put together and deliver it on time for April, when you want to get it out to the residents, that's what we're working against. Typically, you like to be done the first week of April, second week of April, and get it public. So anything that we do that gets us closer to that date just means that it's more unrealistic that we'll be using the new tool.
So the answer is yes, there is a sense of urgency to move.
Only
There-
if this makes sense.
There is, but would we actually be doing any entry or any work in it between now and the next meeting? Even if we were,
No, but it needs to be procured and into their docket. I have no clue what their workload looks like.
Okay.
So there's a lead time to being able to even start.
makes sense. Is this on contract?
Correct. There's a cooperative purchasing agreement.
There is, okay,
through
so-
by board.
Got it.
So if we were to approve the full amount tonight, there's no real restrictions on when that funding is spent and out of what budget year or out of what funding. We just,
It would just be that could be out of this year, or up to. I mean, it's up to us too. We can ask the questions and come back and make a decision after. Like, if we're going to ask the questions and wait, we can also ask implementation
So,
timeline and
I think both
schedule.
of you said it. I mean, I'm going to make a motion on it in a second, but I'll just say that even if, as you were just saying, Jim, we can make the motion for the full amount, and we can leave the discretion up to Brian about how long it takes to engage, if it's useful to expedite it up and get it activated, if we can find the funding source for the full 9, or if they're going to be able to do it at a reduced rate for a partial end of the year, so we can, because we're starting it in January as opposed to a full year. All of those questions, leave that up to him as the person signing the agreement. But before any money is expended, we have to make sure that whatever line item that we're okay with that coming out of. I mean, if you're all okay with that, I'm fine with moving it forward. It doesn't force us to have to engage in anything this year. We could start it slow, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and we come back to it for next year. So with that, to continue, stay on the same path of the way we're supposed to do it, I make a motion to engage ClearGov Inc. Of Maynard, Mass. For software in the amount of $12,560, and to authorize Brian Smith, Town Administrator, to execute all necessary agreements.
second,
Any other discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
With that, it is 6:59, so I'm not going to try to get into streetlights with 1 minute to talk
I was
about
going
it.
to say under a minute to go. That'd be a tough one.
Yeah.
That'd be a tough one.
So we can discuss them after the joint meeting or carry them to a future meeting. And we can determine that after. So if Capital and Finance wants to come up and get settled in, it's actually rolled to 7 o'clock, so I'm going to call the joint meeting with Finance Committee and the Capital Planning Committee to order. And we'll take the first 5 minutes here to kind of get set up, settled, and logged into the software, and then we'll get underway around 7:05 with the budget review. Just log in here. This is on mic. Oh, I see. I didn't realize you had. I think I do. you have these muted, Otis? All right, so we got our technical stuff mostly resolved, so we're up and running. It's 7:11. Chief, welcome. We'll let you take it away.
So I guess I'll start with the animal control, if that's all right, or unless you guys have a preference. Animal control for me is just the easiest. The biggest challenge is still just trying to find an applicant. Oh,
Just to pause for a second. For folks who are navigating, their windows are small, so they have to scroll a little bit. It's budget 292. Yes, sir.
So yeah, just to reiterate that, under Town of Erving, General Fund, then scroll down, it's budget 292. Please proceed.
Yeah. Okay. So the challenge has been just finding an ACO. We've still been partnering with Athol. I spoke with the town administrator today, and it looks like we have an applicant. So we're going to be hopefully moving forward with some progress there. Because of the unknowns, I just level funded everything from salary right through vehicle maintenance, professionalism, seminars, and purchasing of supplies. So there's really no change at all. If you have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Questions, concerns?
None at this time.
All right,
And
so
no
now we'll-
capital for that either?
I'm
No
sorry?
capital under that?
No capital request.
Specific area, right? Okay.
No, sir. So now we'll go to the police department one,
Please.
210. I know that we're under a time crunch, so I'm not going to read all the highlights and challenges, but I think that it was a very productive year that we had. We had a lot of good training that we accomplished. We've made some great strides with post-commission. We still have a lot of work there to do with the looking at getting accredited, and we've purchased some software that's going to hopefully help us with that process. So the goals and the initiative for this coming year is going to be to really make a push on getting accredited. It's going to be a requirement coming down by post at some point. I also have a few other initiatives that I would like to try to reach, and that's some training. I'd like to get a couple of our officers some more specialized training. We have one officer that's in the task force, and I'd like to try to focus some, not giving him a title of a detective, but focusing some training on detective type work, search warrant writing, and so forth. And so I think with his experience that he's got from working with the task force, the next step would be to get him some training there. And then I'd also like to consider a heavy commercial vehicle enforcement position for one of our officers that has acknowledged some interest in that, I think with Route 2 and the amount of tractor-trailer truck we have. So that's something that I would like to work on in this upcoming year. The focus will be to get accredited, though. I think that's going to be a big push. The significant budget impacts, I mean, as we've talked about the past couple years, things are going up, cost of things are going up, cost of maintenance on vehicles are going up. And you know, I did take the guidance from the select board and the finance committee, and I did level fund the operating budget. We did have some new created lines, and so I just moved money from one line to another line to try to accommodate level funding. And obviously the salary portions went up, contractual. Big issue on the budget would be if you guys look at the academy training. We did $20,000 last year. Thankfully, you guys put that money there. But we were fortunate enough to get Mitch Waldron and Brandon Garvey, and so we did not need to send them to the academy. We do know that we are going to have a retirement in October. Officer Gordon is going to be retiring. And so I cut that from 20 to 10 with still anticipating, you know, if this cadet program doesn't work out, then we would maybe have to look to send somebody to the academy, or if the cadet program does work out, we would be sending that person to the academy. So I cut that from 20 to 10, and then the other 10 I did move around to some of the other lines, like you'd see in-state travel. We had 0 last year. This year we have a number there. And then the out-of-state travel, as you can see, I moved some money there. And then another of the big one was the telecommunications. We have both cell phones. Our laptops run off of MiFi cell phones, and so we needed to move some money into that just by running my budget numbers, the Verizon bills and stuff like that. I tried to give you guys all spreadsheets so you could open up and get a real good idea of what the bill amounts are to really account for it. So if you have questions.
I think on the telecom thing too, just for the group, we implemented WatchGuard and fiber, and then we had to raise the
Correct.
speed as part of supporting that service, and so the cost to that
That's correct. Thank you for
was
pointing
part
that
of
out.
the driver, which is almost 2 years running now. That it's fine. It's implemented and showing up
Yep.
in the actual expense.
Yep. Thank you for pointing that out.
Am I missing where the cadet funding is in this?
It's down at the the cadet. That was wages.
Okay.
Um,
And the academy for the cadet, is that not carried in the academy line?
That's the 10,000. So initially we had
Okay.
20,000 because we didn't have the cadet program up and running. It hadn't been approved yet, and so we thought that we were going to have to do 2 to the academy. We didn't do the 2 to the academy because we got trained officers. So
Right.
then I cut that down to the 10 with the anticipation of still having to do the cadet to the academy.
And maybe I didn't think of this when I was reviewing it before. Wouldn't we still want to carry another 10 for the replacement officer as well, or backfilling
That's
potentially?
That's what I was just gonna ask, if we have a retirement coming up in October. Assumingly, let's assume we get a cadet soon, more than likely, if my understanding of the cadet program was correct, that cadet would probably fill that retiree slot. So then would we not be looking to backfill that cadet? So would you not still want the 20?
Sure,
the
I'll take the
academy?
20. Thanks, guys. Yes, to your point, Ms. Smith. Yes, but hiring a cadet is cheaper than hiring an officer. And so if we hired a cadet and that cadet was ready to go to the academy and replace Officer Gordon, great, $10,000 to send them to the academy. I wouldn't foresee us hiring another cadet and putting them into an academy within that budget year.
Okay.
Since the retirement's in October, the replacement would be in
Yeah,
October.
I'm thinking
I
of
see what you're
now,
saying.
if we're recruiting for a cadet now, they might be in the academy before the retirement. But fast forward, it's probably at best spring,
Right.
probably later before you're
Yeah.
hiring, even if that cadet moves into an officer position, another cadet.
Yeah, if we were to get a cadet, we probably wouldn't be looking at a June academy
Right, it'd be later.
at the earliest.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So
that makes
another
sense.
cadet would likely not be in that fiscal year, is what you're saying?
Not going to the academy.
Got it.
Makes sense.
But I'll take the 10.
I rescind the
You
offer.
talking yourself out of it. Thanks.
Dang it. Honesty gets you every time.
Doesn't it?
I have a question.
Please.
And the question may be that I don't understand this new system. If that's the case, I'll get some instruction offline. I just want to know if I'm reading this correctly, that the variance of 18,276, that's mainly because of the salary increases and whatever other increases there are. Am I reading this right?
All right,
Yes.
so I don't know the variant. I'm learning the system as well, so
Okay.
that variance is a fancy word that I haven't talked with anybody about.
Are you in
So
the
we
module
can-
right now?
I am.
He's referring to if you go to the police department, the blue column all the way to the right hand side.
Okay.
He's referring to that total at the top.
The third blue column.
The 18,276.
Correct.
Right. If I'm understanding it right, that's,
And is that the increase
That is
of my budget?
Yep.
Yeah.
okay.
It's
So-
looking at the approved budget from FY25, the current year,
Yeah,
and the request that you've submitted.
okay.
And you can see by line item all the little changes that result in that total change.
I thought that's what it was, wants to be sure I was understanding it right, and that comes out to, compared to last year's budget, just slightly, it's right around 2.5%. And how anybody can continue the budget that they had, continue the services that we're gonna getting from you, and keep it at 2.5% with, everybody knows how much everything's gone up. I don't know how you're gonna do it, but I applaud you for doing it, so, thank you.
Well, give me more money. So to your point, you'll see the salary. So salaries was 446, and now it's 444. But what happened is that in talking with Chairman Smith and Town Administrator Smith, we built like vacation amount and personal time out. So I took, everybody gets 3 personal days. So I deducted that from salary and created a line for,
Okay.
just so, because I meant to bring that up too, for why that salary line looks like it's gone down, that's why.
I mean, part of the reason I ask is, people that are watching from home don't have all these numbers.
Right.
And mine just went away, so I don't have them either. But 2.5% is not an unreasonable amount, so, thank you.
Any questions on operating?
No.
Nope.
Thank you, Chief.
All right.
Capital.
Capital.
So, and Dan, yes, and if there's kind of system questions that we can answer quickly as we're going and what it means or whatever, that'd be good. It is lined up just to the wages portion of that department budget. You're reading it 100% right.
Thank you.
There's also more granularity than we had before and the new chart of accounts, so a lot of shifting things around that don't have a net impact. And to your comment, I just want to, for this group who hasn't seen that yet, probably because it just went out, we did publish as part of the packet the, I don't know, I'll call it sub-level subtotals. So I'm opening it now so I can accurately refer to it. But Brian, if you have it in front of you and you want to,
Absolutely.
just to speak to it really quick so that people understand what level that's
So
showing.
Adobe is slowly loading here.
Yeah, I'm having the same
I think we're
challenge.
trying to do too much.
Mine wants to update.
So there's a summary chart for Public Works and all the departments that comprise Public Works and the different funds, whether it's the enterprise fund and the general fund, public safety, same way. So it's police department, salary and wages, what was the FY24, the FY25 to date, and the FY26 request, and ordinary expenses like the chief just went over for those departments. So hopefully that is, and it aggregates to those groupings. So hopefully that's informative for everybody.
Yeah, so it's like the 3 or 4
Yeah.
larger subtotals to be. It's not all the detail, but they have that to refer to. So what you're talking about makes sense. Okay, on to capital.
Capital. So as I submitted a request to replace the 2017 Ford gas engine, and I have submitted a quote from McGovern, formerly known as MHQ, which some of you guys probably have heard Chief Blair and myself talk about in the past. It's the same place. And we are looking for a 2025 hybrid. And that quote would be transferring certain things like the radio, laptops, things like that, but it would be needing some new items like a new transport cage that would not be able to come out of the 2017 just because of the change in the body styles. I submitted some pictures just so you guys had those to just show you kind of the interior of what I was trying to describe. I did get your guys' email this morning, and I tried to respond to it timely. So I hope that you had time to review the FY 23, 24, and 25 expenses that we've invested into that cruiser. And in addition to that, your question about the replacement cost, I was able to call down to, I just made one phone call, time consuming, but I called down to Ford of Northampton. They seem to be the most reliable for me right now for getting vehicles in and out. And I think the price that I put in that email I don't have it written down here in front of me. I don't know what I did with it, but I want to say it was about $1,400. That's to replace the seat cushion bottom, the seat cushion back, a new cover on it, and then the $350 for the work to be done. As of right now, the 2017 is running fine. Just got it inspected today, knock on wood. We initially were having an ignition issue with it. Again, knock on wood, I'm not having an ignition issue, which I'm thankful for because I can't be down 2 cruisers at a time. It does make things a little bit difficult. So that's where we stand with the car. I think it was like $930 something for the seats and then $350 for the work.
Questions, comments? Go ahead.
Not so much a question, more of a comment, is this was an item that, you know, we did pass over last year because of concerns in presenting a balanced budget. I can't see the rationale in investing any substantive amount of money into a cruiser that, in my opinion, based on my own experiences, beyond its useful life, and in the interest of public service, responding to emergency calls, dependability, reliability, I don't think we should pass over this again this year.
I appreciate that. And can I just make one more quick comment too about that? I know me and Chairman Smith had many conversations, and you guys have been great to the PD and allowed us to get another vehicle and add it to the fleet. And I know that we had conversations back then about would this prolong our liability of a cruiser. And I do still believe that will be the case. I think every other year we were looking at replacing one. And so we might be able to do it every 2 years. But I also remember saying that we still had an old cruiser that we still had to cycle out at some point. You know, to Selectman Lloyd's point, we did bypass it last year, and here we are the third year. So I want to make that statement because I do still hold true to, I think that we can extend the cruiser lives. The more cars we have, obviously, I think we can do that. This one was, though, needing to be replaced, even back when I made that pitch for the 5th car.
Other questions or comments for Chief?
I don't have a question, just thank you for getting us the information
Yeah.
as quickly as you did.
Yep.
This was your only capital request for this year, correct?
It was, sir. Yeah.
My one question, is this the one we did the transmission in?
Yes, it is. That was that $7,000 back in Ford of
Fall.
Northampton back in August 29th. It was $7,284.63. That's when we came to the special. You guys, I don't. You had a special meeting where we the money was approved.
I just asked that because I seem to recollect part of that discussion being, you know, that's more of a significant repair investment than we generally would on the maintenance side of things, and talking about, you know, how much would we get out of it in terms of life now that we've done that. So I don't know what that translated into if we funded this and how long it is to get cruisers right now, because I know lead times were long, but are we a year and a half? Are we getting a year and a half out of that? And I don't know if that makes sense or not. I guess it's I'm not looking for an answer, but just posing the question. And
Chief, sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm done.
I was just gonna ask, I don't recall if it was in there or not. What is the lead time for a new cruiser?
So I think, did you ask me to get that? Somebody asked me to get that. So I just called Northfield, who replaced the cruiser, and they ordered it early spring last year, and it hasn't come in yet. So
Okay.
I was told probably 9 months to a
Okay.
year. With the caveat that, say a town was to say that they were going to purchase a vehicle and then pulled out for whatever reason. That happened to us a couple years ago, and one became available. It was supposed to be another town's cruiser. They pulled out. We were able to grab it. So those types of situations can happen.
Okay.
But 9 months to a year.
Okay.
Anything else?
I would just say to your point, Chairman Smith, that yeah, I'm not saying that this car could be used for this, but it if we do get an ACO, it potentially could be swapped over. Less miles, less wear and tear on it. It's not being driven as much, and so maybe we still get the $7,000, $8,000 investment out of it down the line. So that's an option that we could look at, or we could keep driving it. I mean, I'm here to ask for one, but if you say no, we'll keep driving it. So
Of course. Well, either way, we'll keep up with the maintenance, because then if we do keep it, we keep it. And yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Chief.
thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Chief Wonka, you are up, sir. Which one do you want to start with?
We can just run right down the list. We'll start at 220, the fire department.
Okay.
So the only significant changes in it, attempted to level fund it as best I could. As you can see, there's a almost just a little under 20, just a little over $26,000 increase. 22 of that, or almost 23 of that, is in the wage line item. Under and that's going to fall under contractual stuff and the wage. What's the word I'm looking for?
The base adjustment that
Yeah,
we
the base
said to include.
adjustments on that. The operating expenses, I managed to keep to $3,000 increase in there, and that's based off of, especially because we broke out the chart, the line, the chart lines gives us a lot more flexibility, and I believe it gives us a lot of viewpoints on where the money's going and how we can adjust it from there. So there was, when you look through there, you'll see some tweaks in there that we realized, that I realized were overages, and then some under, so we moved some stuff around there. But most of the stuff was in vehicle maintenance. I think that was the big hit. It was a $2,000 add-on for vehicle equipment maintenance stuff.
Yep.
Questions on the budget portion? Anything highlights from the narrative, just brief from current year and goals next year?
I don't have those right in front of me.
All right.
I think we're going to try to streamline the budget process, or the vehicle maintenance process this year. We took a pretty big hit between just regular vehicle maintenance, especially with the increases. It's roughly about $1,000 on those bigger trucks for just their regular annual maintenance. Between that, so just about $1,500 to $2,000 between pump services and maintenance, the vehicles themselves, services and maintenances. So starting to do a little more in-house with that, so we're not sending them out as much. They still need to go up there for their annual inspection, so we send them out to Rose Ledge to have him go through it, and then we quickly do the inspections up there also. We're still trying to get back into the educational portion between the school and the senior center after COVID. It's been rough going to try to restart that program. With some new administration at the school, I have high hopes that we're going to be up there much more. had a conversation with the principal, and she would like to see us up in there at least once a month, so.
Excellent. Sounds very good. All right, then next.
The next one's gonna be ambulance services, which will be, I was not able to keep that level funded, and I do have one. I apologize because I got the information late this weekend. So as everybody knows, or if nobody knows, we are currently in a Northfield. So we contract with Orange and Northfield EMS to cover the town. Northfield is in the midst of a regional service. They received a grant from, and they engaged the Collins Institute to do a regional study to give us a true representation of what the service would cost us to maintain it, to run an ALS level service 24/7. And with that, we saw a significant increase. It was not a surprise to me that we saw a significant increase in there. So roughly, I used the high-end numbers. We're still trying to work them out amongst that regional body that's coming up to us. So I submitted for the higher end budget, which looks to me is going to be just about 43,000. They do have a new EMS director that wanted to come to the meeting tonight, but unfortunately it was between us or Gil, and he's over in Gil tonight. So I can hand out that information. I only made 4 copies, but I can give you guys. I can give that information. We can forward it after. It's a very accurate representation of what it's going to cost them to do to run the service 24/7, provide ALS service, and also keep up with the capital expenditures of that. As everybody saw in the news, they did purchase a new building, so the town of Northfield has made an investment into keeping that alive. So they've purchased, or they're working on purchasing a piece of property to house that, which will house all 3 of their ambulances at the same time, give them a place to work out of, and we'll be a part of that agreement. They're going to foot the bill for that, but we'll obviously all share in the operating costs of that structure and the service alike. So the increase went from 25,000 to it looks like it's going to be just a little under 43. So, and then I anticipate a decrease or almost a level funding with Orange Ambulance, only because that one runs on a 5-year rolling average, and we are on our 5th year of not having AMR service, and AMR did not cover as many calls on this side of town that Northfield does. So with that, our assessment was higher. So we're back to a normal response from Orange. So I anticipate as we move along that those numbers may fluctuate up or down, because I have not gotten the numbers from Orange. I based my budget request off of last year's numbers. So,
Chief, I'm wondering if we're looking at a different number. Did you say the number went from 23 to 40?
So last year we paid Northfield's assessment was 25, a flat rate fee. All 4 of the communities paid in 25. This year the estimated operating budget's 42.9. Or am I missing the capital?
Art? Yeah, maybe. Because are we all seeing an 80,000 increase
Yeah.
year over year?
Seeing-
So we're seeing 80,000.
From 65,990 to
Okay, that may be a high number. I know there's been a ton of numbers floated around. These are the latest numbers that just came out.
Well, wait, we're
Well,
seeing a
hold on.
request of $187,000, and it's an $80,000 increase from last year.
Correct.
Because the current fiscal year is 107, the last
Right.
black
Yeah.
column, right?
Yeah.
And so 187 is what we're seeing for this year, and that is entirely Northfield's portion of our 2 assessments, because you
Yeah, and I
level
believe
loaded Orange, right?
I believe the higher number was close to 60, was it not? 60 or
I
70?
mean, I think I would maybe recommend we put something in here, and what that exact number is still being worked out with the EMS task force, regionalization task force, which it's Phil and I and our counterparts from all the towns that are served by the service. We've been right up to the wire trying to get some as accurate as possible final numbers. There's a few more pieces to put in, and wasn't able to finish that last week. So
So this
I guess
80,
in a general sense, we're in that direction, whether that's 40, 60, 80. I don't think it'll be 100, but it is an increase and it is significant because it's two-part. One is operating, and the operating is, I believe, we're anticipating that 25 to 40. But then there's a capital piece that would have to be annual recurring to ensure that we can keep they can keep the assets going. That would be part of the assessment. It'd be a two-part assessment, basically. I think that, and I was going to say also, as Chief and I get the final numbers, and we've been involved in this for a couple of years now, Chief even longer than me, we can do a separate half-hour session just specifically on what that task force has been reviewing, what that long-term model is to sustain, Northfield EMS providing this regional service. If everyone is interested in having that as a separate session, just focused on that topic.
I think that would be nice.
We can adjust these numbers lifetime, correct? As they fluctuate around?
Yes, you can.
Right now, we've changed the editing access to the FinCom chair and the select board chair.
Okay.
But yes, they can all be changed.
But I can get
Department
those
heads
numbers.
can't modify right now.
All other users have them
Yeah.
read-only access.
No, that's fine, as long as I get them to, I can get them to somebody so that they can change in there. When we initially did up the budget, I believe there was 3 different numbers floating around, so I picked the higher one at the time, for a placeholder, as it got whittled down or finalized.
Okay.
I would expect them to change a little bit as the revenues come in from them, and how we're gonna use those to offset the capital versus the expense lines. I think in the first couple of years, to ease that burden of a higher assessment coming in, they're going to focus more of it on the operating costs instead of the capital things, but I expect it to level out. And that's not anything we haven't seen in the past. We saw that, I would say, 8 or 10 years ago with Orange, when they started making their adjustments on that, to show an accurate representation of what EMS costs. There was a great article in the newspaper, I'm going to say probably 2 months ago. Coleraine EMS Director Gary Ponce basically put it out that to run an ALS level ambulance, it's about $1.3 million to run that 24/7 and have it staffed. I believe the final budget numbers that Northfield is kind of proposing is 1.1, so I felt very confident that he did a great job of whittling that down and doing a phenomenal job of keeping it as an accurate representation of what it's going to truly cost to run that service. And it's been an excellent service. I have no complaints with it. They've showed up to everything we have. We do help them out by housing one of the ambulances here in town and do bring it out and help them out on that. Most of my EMTs are also dual run with them also, so we're all members of Northfield EMS, so we can jump in and help them out at times. And routinely, they've had all 3 of those ambulances out the door on calls in the 4 towns.
So we'll plan to do that separate meeting once we get all the final numbers and we have
Okay.
them. We can also share right away when we have the numbers what those are. We can make that adjustment in the proposed budget, and then
I believe we're going to have those final numbers at the last meeting that just didn't get posted, so we
supposed to
couldn't-
be last week, right?
couldn't have
Yeah.
the meeting,
So
so I
we
believe it's
expected
gonna-
to have them, but we will have them very soon.
I think it's
expect
going to
we have
come
them
up
in
in the next
January.
couple of weeks, so we should have those fairly quickly.
I'm sure there'll be more questions on that in general, but we can field those during the specific session.
I can forward the
Anything-
email that just came out from the EMS director from Northfield to the chairs in the select board, and then you guys can put it out there, unless there's a distro email for everybody.
There is for each group,
Okay,
so if you want to send them to,
so I just send it to Finance, Capital, and
we'll all get
I'll
them.
send those out tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so that's fire and EMS, and then you've got a separate EM, I don't know.
Well, so the ordinary ex-
EMD, yeah.
I believe the ordinary expenses were,
I think you'd level
yes,
fund
I
it.
have, so that just covers ambulance services, and then the emergency medical technician is a whole nother budget line.
That's for your EMTs.
That's,
And the
yes,
certification
that's for
thing.
our EMTs and our medical supplies for first response, but that was level funded. There was absolutely no changes to that.
And then 291 EMD. also level funded?
Yes. Yes, because the only thing that fluctuates in there would be the salary line items, and the EMD salary line item is figured into my contract, so it's eaten. I think it floats back and forth between the two, but
That's fully in the fire department budget now.
yes.
This is for the vacant assistant EMD.
Deputy or
Yeah,
assistant?
we
Deputy,
do
okay.
not have a deputy EMD,
So that's what that stipend's for.
which I will be working
So
on
that's-
this year.
That's it for operating. Any other operating questions for Chief?
Nope,
Capital?
it's coming.
I want to give time, and we don't have too much longer, so I wanted to make sure we get to that.
So I did send you all a memo, I believe.
You did?
Weighing out the options. So we still have not landed 100% on what we're looking for. But I think at the high end, a custom pumper truck is the base salary was $750,000 on that. I did get the questions, and I had asked those earlier of the sales reps. So the unfortunately the only grants that pay for fire trucks are the AFG grants. The first statement in there is the financial statement from the town, and normally what they look at is the stabilization account. And ours, you normally, every time I've applied, it gets kicked out unless we're in a regional grant due to our stabilization account. But also along with that, they are very, very competitive because that's one of the most competitive ones that they have. Everybody's looking for them to fund trucks, especially because of the cost of them, up to upwards of $1 million. They're much more advantageous when you're looking at a regional grant. Unfortunately, apparatus is not a regional asset. The towns purchase it. But I did ask about there's a myriad of payment options. You can pay for the chassis up front, pay for the rest of it. So you can spread it out over a couple of years. A 24-month build time roughly on a custom truck. Even on the commercial cabs, it's roughly the same price. So you can get a commercial cab, and the cost savings to me wasn't necessary. It's about $100,000, but it makes the truck much larger. I could not find a commercial cab truck that's going to hold the water that we want and need on wheels. That's shorter than what we currently have now. It would be a couple of feet longer than what we currently have, which would still fit in the building. It's still doable. Building a custom truck for another $100,000 gets us a much smaller truck, leaves us a little room to drive around. So I mean, I put my request in for $900,000 with a 20% cost escalator, but I did give you the $750,000, for the truck. The $900,000 request would be for any other equipment that would need to go on it prior to us putting it into operation.
Was there a prepaid discount? I know in the past there have been options. Did they note any?
Yeah, there is. I didn't get the exact percentage, and I think it was roughly right around the same as if we left the money in there. Those aren't as prevalent as they were before the prepayments, and I know that it's a little rough because you're spending $900. You're giving them $750,000, and you're not seeing a truck for 2 years. But I wasn't sure how you guys wanted to proceed with that one. There are lease models where you can do it out just kind of like we did with the loader. We can do it for a 5-year to spread it out over 5-10 years. I know communities. I believe Greenfield does it on a 10-year rotating basis.
Questions?
I did ask the question, of that. I think as we progress along and we nail down what we're looking for and what we're going to present forward, to the town, then we would have a better option on how we could go forward with it.
I think to get to the number for this budget cycle, we'll need to determine if it's moved forward, what funding or what purchase methodology, right? Whether there's a discount up front or spread it over a couple of years, a lease to own. What model do we want? We don't have to determine it tonight, but if there's a couple scenarios that we'd like, just run them with 750 or run them with something to get us some placeholder ideas on how that might break down. I think
I'll call them tomorrow and see if you can give me something in writing on what's out there.
Yeah, they don't have to be exact, but just to give us directionally what they would be.
Okay.
I think what is the prepayment discount is good to know. Sounds like, and what's the split if we have to, pay for a chassis and then pay for the balance?
The lease and the lease terms.
Yeah, what terms? I think there's a couple, you probably have options, right? Would we want to do a 5 or 10? Do you want to see both?
If we can, seeing both would be nice.
5 and 10?
Yeah, if we could.
The flip side of the upfront savings, I think, Chief, you mentioned, there's also the loss of income. Because that's earning interest right now. And to pull 750 out, what's that delta?
That's what I want to know. What are we saving
Yeah.
up front versus what
Yeah.
that does for us? And then if we
I think
do
when I
a
run
split payment with a
I think when I
chassis.
ran the numbers last year, it was kind of a break even, whether we kept it in there, using a conservative number on what we're getting back on our investment here from the town. It was kind of a break even.
Let's just confirm that.
The escalator really truly was the 15% increase that we're starting to see. Well, we're seeing a 5% increase on a quarter, so 15 to 20% increase yearly, on a new apparatus is
Likely.
Yeah. Well, that's at least gives us like 4 numbers to kind of take a look at and see what might make sense. And obviously we can do our own borrowing too, so you know that. Anything else on the fire truck apparatus?
I would just like to make sure I'm clear, Chief. When you say we're going to call it 900, that's like everything, lights, sirens. It's not just the vehicle and then sending it out for help.
No, that's why I put the
Okay.
20% cost escalator in, because if we need to do new hose, if we pull the hose off the truck and find that we're missing some of it, we do test it yearly, so that doesn't seem like a surprise. I just don't want it. I don't want to have to be coming back and saying, hey, I need all this extra stuff that goes
Okay.
along with it. There's a number of stuff on the old truck that we'll slide over, but there's some other things that need to be replaced as we move forward. And I'd like to have it, and then just like we've done in the past, anything that's left over, we'll turn it back over to the town and let you guys reallocate it somewhere.
All right. Thank you,
Sounds
Chief.
good. Thank you.
No other questions?
Good for tonight. Maybe more by morning. Cemetery is next. Not cemetery sexton. Holly from the cemetery commission, the commissioner.
I'm coming.
Tough crowd.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Welcome.
It's just one troublemaker.
No, I didn't go there yet. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know any numbers, so don't ask me.
It's
Like
fine.
what number anything is.
Let me get a little scrolling LED. Now serving budget 491.
Actually, I was going to ask, now that this is all digital, is there a reason why we can't have a screen and have numbers up on a screen somewhere so those of people watching at home would be able to actually see a screen and see what we're talking about here?
If you do that, I mean, they're going to be so small to read next to a video feed. So if you want the video or you want the data, but we can't do that level of detail budget up on a screen. Like
Okay.
I said, and we can show it if you want, or we can print a copy and just circulate maybe page 1 just so you can see it. They have the subtotal lines in the packet. They can go look at live on
Okay.
the website. It's uploaded and available as
That
part of our
sounds good.
packet. No, I understand. We need to put it on a pretty big screen to, even for the room, to make it visible. Just float them up there behind me.
No, that's fine.
Okay,
We're already running behind, so.
we'll add 5 more minutes to our behind time.
We can make it up right now. Go.
What do you want?
Fire away. No.
What are we starting with, operating?
Operating, yes.
Okay, so there's not much to say. The Cemetery Commission is a relatively small budget item, I believe, compared to pretty much everybody else. We had a busy year. We learned a lot. The Cemetery Commission people, it was the end of our first year. We learned a lot. I know more about cemeteries than I ever thought was possible to know, and I share my knowledge widely with my friends who are very excited to hear all about it. Everybody's really excited when I start talking about columbariums, for instance. But anyway, so the two things that are the pressing parts of the the operating budget are really, we have very little. We have a line item for software. We do maintenance of the cemetery, which includes things like, you know, you have to mow the lawn, you have to keep it looking nice, and, you know, that type of stuff. And then one of the other line items is actually it's been used mostly for restoration of the headstones over the course of X amount of years, quite a few years, I think. And we had to keep everything level, we had to take a little bit more money out of that line item, which is the line item we steal from every year so far. And we moved it down to the cemetery software in anticipation of being able to acquire some more software, which would be approximately $3,000 a year, and we'd only been budgeting about $2,000. So that's really all we've got on that side. We've changed a little bit of our fee structure over this last year, and we anticipate if and when we have a new part of the cemetery expansion, that we will look not only at some of the fees for putting people into their plots, but also for selling the plots. We will, in the new cemetery, we will not sell them for $25 each. We did get some positive feedback from the funeral homes, that they were pleased to see that our rates for doing a internment is more in line with the other cemeteries. And I think that's about all I have.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know why they were pleased, but they were. Nobody likes an outlier.
Calculations are harder. Questions? Capital.
So capital, I will start with the small one, and the one that's a little bit more, I'm gonna go with a little bit more defined. So cemetery software, we have submitted a request for approximately $20,000. We think it'll probably be a little bit less than that. That includes some, you know, hopefully it won't go above that, but, you know, as we started looking right away, I think after we were appointed, and, you know, every year everything gets a little bit more expensive, as we all know. We are looking to bring in cemetery software, which will be better for the town, in the fact that there'll be better record keeping. It should be easier to use, and stuff will be kept in one place that's up to date, that's backed up. We've looked at about 3 companies, plus I talked to another one. One company said, "Oh, you're too small," because they want to do a whole municipal software system for you. They were really not interested in just selling to somebody who only wants to use cemetery. They all seem to have pretty much the same type of idea. So they have an interface for the people in the town to put to keep information up to date. They all have a way of loading the information that we have. We have to basically create a file for them from Excel, create a CSV file. They'll upload it, and then we'll, you know, massage anything that needs to be done. We're looking to make sure that the company will be able to keep things like copies of of anything that comes in to go along with it. Like, I don't know whether we, you know, if we wanted a death certificate, if we wanted any of that kind of stuff, so that it can take it in, put it, rather than relying on paper files, everything could be contained in a record for that particular plot. It'll be searchable. It also has the ability, one of the things I thought was pretty cool is, you know, things like tagging someone as being a veteran. And so when, I don't even know who does it, whoever puts the flags out every year.
Mr. McCory.
Oh, yeah. They'll just be able to run a report once we put the information in there, rather than somebody having to try to figure out who it is and keeping it up to date. It'll just be a simple click and then a report. The other part that is really nice too, that is sort of a newer piece for cemeteries, is an outside facing in look at the cemetery. So there'll be a web presence. This is all in the cloud, by the way. There'll be a web presence where people will be able to go in and look for a particular grave, which and whatever information is there. Keeping in mind that this is only once someone is buried. You don't open it up to who owns the plots or anything. You just do it that way. There's a lot of interest in genealogy these days, so this is what this helps with. One of the ones we looked at had a really interesting feature that I liked, which was allowed an outsider. So say my grandmother is buried there and I want to upload the obituary, or I want to upload a picture of Graham. I would be able to do it, and then the town staff that has access would be able to say, okay, this is fine, and we're going to open this up. So it's not a free-for-all, so that, somebody's not going to put something in there that's not appropriate, or they're not really for that person. So the initial ask for is about $20,000. This includes the installation, and then the ongoing is approximately, we are anticipating $2,800 to $3,000. So we put $3,000 in our budget for that.
Any questions, comments on this one?
Nope.
My only comment was going to be, should we be adjusting the software in the first year? Because usually the first year is in the capital cost, right? Usually we bundle first year annual fees
Correct.
plus, so maybe you don't need to make the $1,000 shift in this year,
Right.
the year after.
Yeah. We put it in there because we also didn't know, based on timing, when we would have to pay for the next year. You know what I mean?
The first year would be in the fiscal year of the capital project usually, and it would be funded in the capital project.
Okay.
So usually you don't need to carry it until the year after, which just means we'll forget that you have to have a budget adjustment in the year.
Right.
Just a comment, we don't have to move it back, but we could maybe for this year, but it's also
Right.
preparing for the year after, so if we do
Right.
adopt the software.
And I guess my only other, I guess that's my only comment on that. The only thing that we have to keep in mind is that the operating budget has stayed level, and by adjusting things in there. But most of these companies will give you like a 3-year contract, and then we have to just be aware that it'll probably go up after that, and we can't always rob Peter to pay Paul. I know we're small, but we still count.
Absolutely. All departments matter.
That's right.
We
Okay.
fund all of this because it's all important. Okay, the bigger one.
Oh, the bigger one. So let's see. So one of the reasons why we were all sort of recruited into actually having a cemetery commission, at least it's my understanding, was that we needed to be able to start thinking about what we were going to do about the lack of plots left in the current cemeteries. As I'm sure you all know, we have 2 cemeteries. We have an older cemetery and we have a newer cemetery. So over the last year, we've been working. Mariah did the original legwork. Thank you, Mariah, to get us information about it. And we've learned a lot about how this all goes. And we had grandeur plans at the beginning that we have now been brought down to earth when we saw the initial number. So the capital request that we put in we have boiled it down that the place that we are looking to use is across from the current center cemetery. And it will be a combination of traditional graves. It will have a green cemetery component, which is becoming more and more prevalent as a request for the way that people want to be buried. They no longer want to, have a casket in the same way and be embalmed and, last forever. And you can't intermingle them. That's an important part of understanding it. You can't just say, hey, you bought that plot over there and we're just gonna put you in there. It doesn't work really well. So I have not gone and looked at other towns at this point, but a lot of the other towns in the valley have started creating a green area or green cemetery. So we're looking to incorporate a green cemetery and also a different way to do cremains that people would still be able to put cremains into a traditional plot, but also to acquire a columbarium of some type and size. It came out, so looking at the numbers, we are still waiting on the company to give us a little bit more breakdown, because we also asked if there was a way we could phase some of it. And theoretically there is, but keeping in mind that the total cost when you phase something is going to increase, because there are parts that you have to then redo. And in order to make the first phase work, the majority of the work has to be done there. You still have to do some clearing, you still have to build your infrastructure, you have to bring your water in, you have to pave, you have to make your parking lot, you have to do all of that. And then really a phase 2 would just be clearing and expanding like more areas. The proposal that they put out, we had also looked at maybe doing green burial over at Holton. And we have now, that was gonna cost as much as doing an expansion, a traditional expansion. So we scrapped that and said, figure out a way to put a green area in the expanded area. And the columbarium, they were looking at making one that would be way beyond, we could have put pretty much everybody that lives in Erving in it or close to it. It seemed a little overkill. So we've asked them to give us some better proposals on that. They also were looking at going into the current cemetery and doing some work. And after a lot of discussions with Glenn, we have decided that is not really a way to go because of the contour of the land and the makeup of the land that's left. Currently, we are down to approximately, as of about a month ago, I don't know if it's still true, we have 22 plots left in Center Cemetery. So that's where we are. So it's $1.5 million. So the $1.5 million I kind of came to by taking what they gave us their original proposals and trying to pull it down without actually getting total numbers from them, even though we won't get total numbers from them until later anyways, when we get closer. That
we are
included them.
1
go
minute
ahead, sorry.
warning.
Huh?
1 minute warning.
Oh, and that includes having them do some of the bid work and all that type of stuff and paperwork and overseeing it. I'm done.
Questions?
I'm sure it was in there, Holly, and I'm just not remembering. How many new graves would this garner us?
Total was gonna be about 300 for everything.
All
Which is-
type,
yeah, it's
all
a long
types?
way.
Yep.
Okay.
I use 5 seconds of your last minute, or 10 seconds maybe, just historical. Some people will be pleased with your decision if it comes to fruition to put the cemetery near the current cemetery, across the other side of Mountain Road. When we were trying to build a police station years ago, we suggested that as a place to build the police station. People came out in force, absolutely not. That land was purchased for a cemetery, and that's what it should be. So should be if people have memories, they should be pleased that's where it's going to be.
I didn't even know that.
That's the history of that plot?
We did.
Yeah. Well,
Interesting. Hey, that's full circle.
I remember those discussions very well, Mr. Hammack.
Wow.
At the time, someone claimed that their family gave the land to the town. I'm thinking it was $400 at a time when land was about 50 cents an acre, so, but anyways, the town has it, so.
50 cents an acre. Ponder that. Go ahead.
Just for clarity, 22 spots left that are unpurchased, not 22 unused.
That's correct.
And we do have a buyback program as well now.
Well, in theory, we could, but you can't offer any more, you can't offer any incentive beyond
What they paid.
what the original purchase price was.
Interesting.
That's some Mass General law.
Sure.
Of course it is.
No doubt.
All right.
Interesting. So-
Is there any thoughts, Holly, if someone has a site in the current cemetery, but when the new one comes would like to, is there like a way to swap?
If they would want to pay for the new one at the new cost.
Okay.
That's purely me talking.
Sure.
I am about, we have $1.5 million to make up.
Something for the commissioners to think about in the process, right? There's and so overall cost, yes. Phasing and timing and where those costs would land is still in progress.
I mean, the commission would like to go ahead with the whole thing as one piece, but we understand that might not be viable. But we want to just make sure everybody understands. It's like you can't do like $1 million this year and 500,000 the next year, and it's all good. There's an incremental cost.
Overall time from like funded, assume funded, overall timeline from from where we are through bidding and full construction and completion of the entire project. It's over 12 months, right?
At least 16?
Yeah, that's what.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they actually gave a time frame on it, but I would think a year and a half anyways.
Right.
I think
It would be good to know and then understand what incremental costs there might be, like, because it may be backloaded or front loaded, and that may
Yeah.
cross fiscal years, or we may do that as part of the plan.
Right. We've asked for that.
Okay, perfect. Other questions?
All right. Thank you
Okay.
all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Helen.
I hope you get to go home with a reasonable hour.
We're shooting for it. So far, so good. Mr. McCrory, you are up, sir.
Evening.
Good evening.
We have tree warden and highway tonight. Would you all mind starting with tree warden? 294.
Go for it.
You gave me a number, you're good.
Just gotta wait for it now. Very simple. Everything is all level funded. All the work that gets done out of the tree warden's budget seems to work just fine the way it is. I would just ask that we just leave it.
Done. Moving on.
Okay,
Yep. Good to go.
hearing no questions.
420. Highway and streets. Everything is level funded. Obviously, salary wage line has increased for the steps. As Chief Holtz was saying earlier, we created new lines for longevity, holiday, vacation, sick, personal leave. So it does not look like the wage line went up a whole lot, but a lot of it is moved down into those lines also. Those are based off of 96 hours per employee of sick time and what they can accrue a year for vacation time. So each employee is different. Other than that, everything is level funded.
Good.
Okay.
Next.
Questions? No? 422. I think we're all trying to use the Wi-Fi together too much.
Yep.
We're all loading the same line at the same time in the budget too.
Same thing, there's only a few articles in this, the bridge maintenance and the roadway fund.
The others are the special articles.
Yep, I was saying the special articles are in here also, so no changes there. Questions?
Okay.
Nope.
423, snow and ice, same thing, everything level funded. Material wise has worked out well for us last few years, no sense in changing that. Overtime again, so under that, everything level funded.
Next.
424. Street lights. Same thing, everything level funded. Electricity, I believe, is the only thing that we had concern on, but I believe we're locked into the same rate for one more year.
One more year for this.
So we should be good with that also.
And I didn't get to read the whole thing, so does the memo that was sent in regards to the streetlights affect this budget? Or is that all gonna go under capital?
No, well,
Well, it depends on what we do.
depends on how far it goes.
Okay. All right,
To be determined.
got it.
Keep going with this before the memo? Yes, okay.
Yep.
You got everybody good with streetlights?
Yes.
429, highway, streets, and other. This is the gas, the fuel, and the diesel. We've used less diesel since buying more gas trucks lately. The school brought on a vehicle this year also for gas. Not quite ready to lower the diesel on it yet, but if there's a shift into too much unleaded, we have room in the diesel budget to cover that. So we level funded those also. The wheel loader lease, this will be the last year, so you can see that that was a decrease of 5,000 because of the money that was already still in there. And then we'll just have the $1 buyout at the end.
Okay.
So this one's down 105,000?
What's that?
This one is down 105,000?
It shows that, doesn't it? There is something else, so there's a special article in here
Yeah.
Okay. Truck.
also for the truck.
Okay.
That's the one thing, the special articles, because they don't get budgeted every year, but sometimes there can be expenses in a year that there wasn't a budget, can throw your comparison a little bit off.
Okay, thank you.
I was confused too when I first put it in here.
Okay.
I think
Is
that's,
that, do we have building and grounds? Did we cover that under the other one, this one?
I wasn't scheduled for that for tonight.
Highway, building and grounds, and tree warden.
Oh, Building and Grounds was on there? You guys rock. You didn't do that last year. Thanks.
We learned something.
People not having to come back.
Yeah.
And miss out on all this?
Oh, you can come back, but
I'd love to.
have to present.
Everything was level funded this. The only thing that came up this year was the first year that there was a
What's the number? Because I
192.
oh,
Thank
sorry,
you.
192.
I told you about it, but I don't know where it was.
I failed you.
Please resume.
Same thing, salaries was just the salary increases by the steps. Again, we took the employees, their sick time, vacation time, everything, and put it in those separate line items, same as on the highway side. 96 hours of sick time for each, and then what they could accrue for vacation, and then the personal leave, holidays, longevities. The van, for the custodial's van, had its first real repair since we've bought it, other than regular service. We never had a vehicle maintenance line in here. It always came out of the highway vehicle maintenance. But because there was almost a $3,000 repair, I talked to Brian. Brian suggested that we make a line item for that in here. So that is where the change is in this.
It's a two-part change because we
That's
moved.
in a 200, I think, though, isn't it? I don't think that was,
192, 200.
yes, I
It's
believe.
in the 200s.
Yeah, so there's 14,000 we moved out, which is postage and mail costs, which were in public buildings, but we moved it to IT as more of a technology cost than a building cost per se, and it's shared by all town departments, that postal cost, so
Right.
there's a $14,000 reduction in the ordinary expenses to move that out.
Okay,
And then there's the maintenance ad, right, which I'm
Of the vehicle.
correct.
finding here somewhere, and that is what is netting to the 95 reduction, I believe.
The line item number for that is 524400.
00, yep.
There it is.
Yeah, as you see, it was a $2,076 repair.
And to your point, that's the first repair we've had on that vehicle.
Yeah, other
Had
than,
it 5 years?
5 years. Yeah, other than its regular service and tires. Yes, it's the first repair. It's been a good vehicle.
The water go up 2,000 as well? Am I reading that right?
Oh. Some
This
of those
is a
lines-
shared, this is a shared
Some of those
line.
line items are mine.
Got it. Yeah, the double lines in here are a little hard to follow.
That's just because there's too many of us in here. It's trying to refresh and do all of it. It's duplicating lines for some reason.
Oh, okay.
To that order, it was like that the other night at the finance committee meeting, so we did wonder if it was a software glitch.
I wonder if you hit refresh, but that
All
may
of
not-
us hit
everybody at
refresh at the
once.
same time.
Yeah, we
now.
all hit refresh.
That was your request, right? See if we can make it do it twice.
I just heard the resounding clicking, so let's see.
I'm gonna touch mine.
That looks the same.
Still doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. It does go away. It's happened to me once before. I don't know what causes it, but it does go away.
Okay. We should
Things
ask
are
him
truly
about
not in here duplicated. You can see all the duplicate lines have zeros. They have no values to them.
Yeah.
So, but to your question, the water,
Well, hold on one second. Is everybody in blue seeing like plus 13, minus 13? Plus 8, minus 8?
Yeah.
In two rows?
Yep.
Like each row's offsetting each other? So what we're seeing is a row that's positive and a row that's negative. It offsets each other.
that's going away.
Yeah,
That's just a glitch right now.
yeah, okay. It's fine.
Pretend like you don't see that.
I was
Um,
looking for the net change, so I was trying to do the sums constantly. I'm
Got
assuming the water line changed as well.
Water was never broken out as a singular line item before. We used to have one of those all expenses undefined categories, and it was charged there. This cost is for the cost of Town Hall's well, it's a public water supply, and Zelensky is a public water supply. So that covers both of those. It's just traditionally been billed there. So last year we budgeted $1,000 to start the line. It's a $3,500 cost. So we did increase that to match.
We're looking at line 192, is that correct?
We're in Department 192. That's
Okay,
correct.
because I had a question when it's time for a question.
I think it's time.
Okay. If the grand total last year, or current year, is like 364,000, give or take a little,
Mm-hmm.
and the request is 306, how does it look like it's going up for 79,000 plus? Is that for the article below for 80,000, or am I misreading that? Or at the very top grand total line?
Let me find that change.
So
I think it's in
the-
the special articles.
The 2024-25 or the FY25 annual is 227. Right? Am I
27?
reading that?
227, yeah.
Yep. And then the current,
That's not the number I'm looking at. On number 192, grand total, 295,
I see
actual
what you're saying.
68 not yet spent, comes to
Yeah.
364.
I'm with Dan.
So it comes to 364, and you're asking for 306, which is like,
to the left of the yellow columns, the first black column is the actual budget though, right?
That's FY25's budget.
So the yellow refers to the last gray is what was set as a budget, right? Which is
I think it's
227.
talking about the correct column. There's something funny happening here. Look
Yeah,
at
there's-
special article for the exhaust capture system.
It's coming up as like 80,000.
Yeah,
The
it's
24-25 current year's actual forecasts is 295,874. And then the 24-25 current year forecast, the
Yeah.
budget variance is 68,628 is what Dan and I are seeing.
But that's actuals. What I was saying is you said budget, I thought. Budget was 227.
Right.
I don't see 227 anywhere.
So do you see the,
One,
so
two
the,
columns to your left.
the first column that's gray, from next to the yellow one,
306,
sorry, the
427.
last gray
It's,
column.
that you
Say
can't
that
see it,
backwards.
it's over here. Next to the yellow one to the left,
We're almost done.
Oh,
right there.
okay.
There's an error with this article, so,
So-
I'll get this fixed.
So that's
Yeah.
fine. So 220, do we all agree 227 or see that? I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, the current year actuals incorporates the door improvement article, 170,000 that we added this year. That's throwing up the current year a lot because there's a lot of articles that are in here. And then why we see 306, that I'm not sure about yet.
We'll get that fixed.
Because there's a 10,552 increase from the actuals of 295,874.
Okay, then
But it's not
That
showing
lends
it in
to
the
the-
variance column.
it's showing a $79,000
Yeah.
variance, which is what it is year over year because it's 227 in right now in this year. So that's gonna, if there's not something wrong with the 306, then why almost an $80,000 increase between this year and next year requested?
Is that what you're saying, right? That's where the
It's
problem
with
with
the-
the exhaust capture system's coming in?
Yep.
So
I
there's
will
an
get that
$80,000 error in this that
And I-
Brian needs to adjust.
and the
then
budget
totals will
says-
shake out.
The budget request says 0, so I don't know where that's coming from. So I will get that figured out with the company.
What line is that?
That would be special article. So down in the 900s, you're talking article
19212.
19212. Yep.
Yeah.
Except the variance. Okay, never mind. I'm looking at it wrong.
So something weird's happening with
got
that
it.
line, so I'll get that corrected.
I'm good. I'm good now. Thank you.
Can I just offer some context? 192 is sort of like a holding spot for a lot of town-wide special articles. So there's a lot of transactions. Jake just brought up a good example, the door access and security system for the school and the PD was housed here. So this budget, sometimes there's this standard operating that Glenn just described, and then there's all these other special capital projects that get funded that come and go through here. So this budget can look drastically different from year to year, but it's usually those special capital projects.
I'm fine, thank you.
Thanks for bringing the attention.
I think we'll probably explore if there's a way to better separate articles from everything else so that the totals at the very top aren't skewed by that because they're throwing off, like trying to look at variances from operating costs significantly. That was buildings and grounds, right? So did we capture it all? All your operating costs?
No, hold on. Yes, there is a few more, but there's no budget entries in them.
Okay.
They're
You get a lot of
almost-
them.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of them for some reason. But yes, everything that we've went over. I haven't sold any real estate, so I don't know why that's on there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Any operating cost questions for Glenn?
Nope.
Okay, capital.
Okay, you'll have to give me 2 seconds to get out of here.
As long as we don't all refresh at the same time.
So, Brian had just sent over a memo.
We'll start with streetlights.
Oh, start with,
There's no capital request for that. Correct?
Correct. It was a memo that came over outside of the other procedures. I emailed it over
Right.
earlier this afternoon.
This is for capital.
Okay. Capital request first.
We'll come back to that after.
think I'm a long ways down this list.
You are.
Page one, well,
Yeah, I was going to say.
different packets.
I don't know what packet he's looking at. I almost said
that's right.
128.
I did
but
too, but
I don't have that.
He's not on
See
there.
Page 87 in the packet I sent to the departments today.
See, I'm a highway guy. I don't know how to click through right to page 87, so I am scrolling. I'm on interior pictures right now.
That's going to be a lot of scrolling. Right here.
Oh, look at that.
Change that to 87. And enter.
if it
You
makes you
are
feel any better,
incredible.
we've
Look
all
at
did
that.
this. We just didn't do it in this meeting.
And they say you don't learn something new every day. All right.
In Irving, you do.
So this is the phase 2 of the Bridge Street Maple Lab that we discussed at the first capital meeting on whether we're closing accounts or not. So this is phase 2 of culvert work and fire pond finish and repave, which I believe we discussed this at the board meeting last week and approved what 91 or 92,000 for
45,
65
65,000.
out of engineering for engineering costs.
Yeah, phase 1, 2, 3, I think.
The first three
task.
phases
First
of
3
engineering,
phases.
right?
Yeah, and that came back and it's all signed
Just on schedule a meeting with you and Chief.
in just a startup meeting.
So that's in progress. So that's not really an FY26 capital request. That's an in progress capital request.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, we gave them the guidance, capital gave them the guidance, right, to move this forward now, so we had the funding.
Yeah, so that's,
But the 109 was the full engineering all the way through construction, which the board decided to hold off because we don't know yet when we'll fund construction.
Right.
When does the construction probable cost show up on a request? Because that's the next step, right?
Based on the work that needs to be done, I don't think it's going to be in June, probably,
Maybe.
that we have and then paying the probable cost.
A lot of the work has already been done from the first phase of it. A lot of more of it's going to be the permitting and the
Right.
fire pond part of it than it is the rest.
Okay.
So we can just keep all 3 boards updated as that progress is made. And maybe consider
It won't
for
be
a-
in this capital cycle unless it's out of cycle.
We're expecting to apply for grant funding for the construction, so that it may be more checking in with all of you that we have an opportunity, we have an opinion of cost. Are you okay with us applying for these funds?
Good. Next.
Next one, North Street, Church Street, complete streets, engineering phase, 49,000.
I think we
Questions?
discussed this in July.
For capital, this is some of the ones that we noted were missing are now there. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else? Are we considering the property one here now too? Okay,
Or Glenn.
the maintenance.
Glenn's gonna help me with that one.
What's that one?
The flooring replacement that we have to do. This is Station 2 and the senior center floor for the great room. We had discussed that back in early December.
Yeah.
So that's the request for both of those.
Did that go out of line?
Questions?
I don't, I think they
Page
just
112.
came to capital, so we haven't really had the chance to review them yet, so I don't know if we have questions at this time.
I think they just came to everybody, so. Okay. Did you have anything else for us, or did we cover it all?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you.
Mr. Sanders, you're up next.
what
I don't
department
dare
you want to
touch
start with.
anything on here, but, because all the problems you guys are having.
We're good. We can start with water. Might as well.
Start
Start
with
with water?
water.
Do you want to start with waste? Whatever you prefer.
Which one are you starting with?
We can start with wastewater.
So
Okay.
if you scroll back up to the top, where you have 001 general fund, and they asked you all before to hit the plus button to make that list longer, click that so it shrinks that back down for a second. And now you're going to see the different funds. You want to go down to Fund 600. That's the wastewater fund. Click that plus, and you want to start on wastewater collection and disposal. Should be Department 440. The only thing that's going to look a little different to you all on this one is that all the revenues are budgeted up front. So if that's a little distracting, you can make that smaller.
That's all less than the 100s, right?
Correct. Yeah, everything less than 100 is correct.
Good? Do everybody have it up? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so for the operating budget, we're level funded. I did switch a couple things around, and the only other changes that have changed would be under the salaries, the longevity, the vacation, which is standard based on the 96 hours, like for sick time. The only, what I had switched around, you'll notice there was one change. I just switched out 10,000 out of electricity. I put 5 towards lab testing and another 5 towards sludge removal, because the cost shipping to Lowell has gone up. Other than that, I believe I have everything level funded. If I'm doing it correctly.
Any questions on that one?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay.
Also then, if you go to under the 600, 443 to pump stations, that is also all level funded. Nothing has changed there.
Questions on that one?
Nope.
Okay.
So then you want to go on to the water.
Yep.
Okay, the water is under enterprise 610, under that 450 for underwater distribution. Besides the salaries, it's, you know, plan change from the pay charts and all that, and for the vacation, overtime, sick leave. Besides those adjustments, everything else is level funded.
Did the distribution between the departments change on salary and wages?
Yeah, I'm wondering why I'm seeing a decrease of
Because the salary and wage just went down significantly.
14,000.
Under what, for the
No.
The
distribution?
permanent salary under what? Yeah, under 100 for 45,511 100. The perm salary, it went down 8, and then some other small ones, and then vacation and stipends and certs went down. Looks like all that together.
Cumulative is 14,181.
I see what you're saying.
Looks like the distribution on the other, like PTO and sick leave and all that, didn't it got zeroed out, so probably need to update that distribution.
Okay.
Either it's in the wrong department because it's split with wastewater, or it's just
I think it's
missing.
probably still in wastewater, and we need to make the move. So,
And then the overall salary change of like 8,000 down, and
So-
the lack of certs and stipends. The stipends make sense, but
that line item, wastewater had a different breakdown of line items, and there were several line items that were aggregated into the new chart of accounts. When we did that, there was some capacity for part-time support staff that had not been used in years in the water department, and so that all got rolled in. And I remember during the budget hearing last year, you all noted that amount now that's presented in this new way looks higher than we needed. So I think that part of that is that additional capacity that has just been there.
and so now it's visible and decreased.
And so Pete just budgeted for what he needed for the staff. But we should still check the PTO leaves.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can do that together.
So maybe 2/3 of that is correct, and maybe
Right.
1/3 of that is missing something.
Right.
Okay. Other questions on budget?
Nope.
Flipping back to wastewater for a second.
Okay.
The same section, salary and wages, just maybe vet that as well, because that's a very large increase
Yes.
year over year. And I know we anticipated some, but I didn't look at the numbers exactly, but it just seems very high. So maybe just run through that one more time, Pete, and make sure it makes sense.
Okay.
The source, I know the details better, so maybe we are just, adjusting for that, but
Okay.
take a look at that. Okay. All right. Capital? Unless there was something else on your list. I think that was it until capital, right?
Okay, let me see if I can switch this without losing everything.
So we're using that packet I sent this afternoon. Start on page 114.
The packet that you sent?
Yep.
Okay, for the first one on here on page 114 is for Hawk lab equipment. There's two pieces of machines that we can use in the lab to do in-house our nitrogen testing, phosphorus. There's a whole bunch of things that we can do in-house with these two pieces of equipment. It'll save us roughly, after 2 years, you'll get our return on investment, and it'll probably save us about $5,500 a year after that. The benefits of it we can get currently now, when we send out, like, say, our nitrogen samples, it takes 3 to 4 weeks, which is pushing it, because by that point my reports are due. I'm constantly chasing the lab to get the results. Also, the benefit with this would be no more chasing the lab. I'll have my results instantly the day the tests are performed. So it's a win-win. After initial cost, the regular packets to do the tests, it'll run us probably combined total of packets about $400 a year.
Questions? Next.
Makes sense.
Okay, the next one is okay, the big one that Mrs. Smith had questions about too is under our AMP program, asset management plan, there's an issue with one of the tunnels that runs out near the aeration tanks. Back in 2009, when we had the upgrade, they repaired some cracks in the tunnels because we're getting some groundwater penetration when we have excessive amounts of rain. We've developed a few more cracks. We're getting more groundwater in there. So under our asset management plan, the estimated repair, when the engineer did their the plan for us, it's very expensive. It was $492,000. But right now, I'm in the process of trying to get a whole different contractors to see if we can just pay a contractor to come in and fix these cracks and seal them. I don't think they need to be engineered to fix a crack. But there'll still be a cost, so I don't know if this is something we want to set aside money each year, or as soon as I can get a definitive quote from a contractor to do the work. We just have to get them in to look at it before they give us a quote.
Well, I think it would depend on the quote, whether that would fall under capital or maintenance. Strictly speaking of the quote that was, the form that was submitted, that would need to be updated because it's really vague.
Okay,
So, if that can be kind of explain all of that in the capital request.
okay.
I would say, I would leave that to, as the department head, to your discretion as to what route you wanted to go and how you wanted to follow, to move forward, and then submit that to us, and then we would review.
Okay.
I think that's kind of what capital wanted, right? Like, clear that up, and then what's the recommendation? Because
Yeah,
that's what
that
those
was-
requests came from, right?
That's, yes, and that was what was sent out in the communication the other day.
Other questions, comments?
So I appreciate the thought of repairing without a need for engineering. I'm just wondering it because I know very little about this. Would an engineering study be beneficial in a way of determining the severity of the cracks and other underlying issues that may be causing them, or would accelerate future damage?
I mean, we can get some engineers in to look at it. The tunnels are as old as the plant, so after a while, I mean, concrete itself does have a life. We could develop more cracks, it's possible. We can just go by the Time Bond's recommendation and just plan when we want to do the work. I don't think it has to be done this year, next year. I mean, it's something that you could probably, I'm sure we could we'll be fine for a few years. But just because it's a large ticket item. I mean, in the asset management plan, I had sent everybody the pages on there that had it. Like I said, their quote was $492,000, which is a big chunk of money for repairing cracks. My opinion.
No, and I certainly appreciate your opinion. You're our resident expert here, so.
I mean, we can have Time Bond come look at it again. I mean, that's up to you all.
So it sounds like you need to do some, dig into it further. Want to talk with a vendor, or, potentially could do the work and then come back to us with a recommendation on what you've found, what you think
Okay.
is the best path forward
Mm-hmm.
based on that. And weighing all the pros and cons, and just come back with that and we can go from there. Makes sense. Okay. Next.
So the last, I believe it's the last thing for wastewater for capital was, there was questions about the SCADA computer replacement. Originally, it was $20,000, and that was the verbal estimate from Time Bond. Then when I got the written quote back from them, it was $26,000. The computer that we're using right now, we've been using it for roughly 13 years. It just keeps blacking out. We have to reboot it. Sometimes it takes forever. It's doing real funky things, like where we have meter readings that we use the data. Sometimes they go black. We reboot it takes a while to come back. My concerns are, I mean, this is a real important computer because it controls the plant. So we definitely need to replace it.
Questions? Okay. Moving on to water. Did you have one?
I was just
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, similar to the comment I made when Chief Holst was here, I don't know that this is one, especially where it's the first priority, that would want to pass on it. I mean, given the age of the computer and end of life being passed, so just a quick comment. And
Can I just ask one question, and that is that you had priorities 1, 2, and 5 for those. Would 5 then be 3? The tunnel was 5.
Yeah, we can move it up to
3?
3, yes. What happened was I had,
Couple others?
yeah, we had a couple other things after discussing with
Oh, okay.
Selectman Bastrash. She had mentioned that we'll just take it out of repair.
Okay,
There was 2
understood.
pumps that we were gonna put in for. We took those out.
Thanks, Pete.
Yep. So for water, the trailer, I had put in for a utility trailer, that was to be used for emergencies. Whenever we have water breaks, we seem to be, even if we chuck fill the truck and the van, we seem to be running back and forth to get more and more supplies, which it does take some time, makes it a little bit longer on repairing. My goal is to have this trailer set up with a generator in it, the trash pump. We've got it in a new trash pump, so we don't have to rent one anymore. Have it set up with cones, the maps of the system in there, everything that we need to do water break repairs. And then hopefully we don't have any, but if we do, we can just hook up to the trailer and we're done.
I think one of the questions that we had was the difference between this is being used for emergencies as opposed to this is an emergency to purchase it.
Right. I don't remember how I wrote it in the request. It's for emergencies.
Okay. Thanks, Pete.
Other questions on that one?
So this would only be stocked and used during emergency situations? It wouldn't be something that you guys could utilize for anything else?
We could if we take some of the gear out, but like all the water equipment stuff, I wouldn't fill it with wastewater repair stuff plus water. I like to keep those separate for many reasons. But we could absolutely, if we had to empty the trailer to move other stuff. I mean, it's done all the time. So.
And I think the only other question was, is there a reason why it has to be a trailer? Because you guys have pickups, right? Is there a reason like one of the pickups couldn't be outfitted with this equipment?
We've had the truck loaded with everything that we could possibly fit in it, and it's between the pickup and the van together, we're still making trips, running back from water break back to the plant.
Is that because of space or because we're grabbing something different that we didn't get?
A little bit of both. I mean, a lot of it's space. In the pickup, we can keep the long wrenches in it. We can't put those in the van. We can put in on the trailer I plan on getting will have the rack on it, so we can put a ladder on it to get in and out of the ditch. It's just with the truck, putting in the generator in the van. The last break we had, I had sections of hose curled up, spare plastic pipe to do the repair, curled up in the van. It's just not enough room.
I think one of the things I know I had mentioned or discussed along the way was if you had an area to have compartments that you could, because we have multiple fittings, we have multiple pipe sizes,
Right.
multiple shut-off sizes, all of the connections. So having 2 or 3 of those available in one location at a moment's notice, so that when you do get that hole dug open and you're looking at a break and you think, oh, our paperwork said it was a 2-inch pipe, but it's 1.5 inches, and instead of having to run back to the, garage to go get that extra fitting, you have it there with you. You don't have that capacity to put that in a truck of all of the various sizes, from your 1 inch to 1.5 to 1 3/4 to your 2 inch.
And it varies. So the last 2 breaks we had, for instance, on Lillian's Way, one was an 1.5 inch line that fed that section of condo units. The last one we had, which is unheard of to use, it was 1.25 inches. So, I mean, if we can keep, stock with every size that we can, we may buy these parts, we may not use them for 20 years, but we have them.
So then that leads me to ask, is there gonna be additional, because the way Scott's making it sound like is you're buying this trailer and you're essentially outfitting it with anything and everything you can think of that you'll need for repair, so it's basically like a mobile tool storage shop, everything on wheels.
Yep.
So is that then going to, in order to do that, I'm assuming there is a cost associated with that, it's not within this 12,000. So are we going to see an increase in your operating budget to outfit this trailer then? Because the way you guys are making it sound, like you're making it sound like this is a mobile on wheels. So are we keeping stuff at the shop as well? Are we keeping stuff in the trailer? Like, I'm just confused as to where the supplies are kept, and does that then increase your supply budget?
My goal is, I don't think it would increase the supply budget because I'll just buy the parts out of the operating budget. There's money there for that. We do have a bulk of the items now in one of the Conex boxes, as far as for the larger size pipes to clamps and whatnot. And we could do 2 of everything in the trailer is my goal. The only thing that we would have to just know is what we're gonna throw in for pipe if it's large pipe.
So what size trailer is this gonna be?
7 by 14.
Yep.
Is this going to be an enclosed trailer so
Yes.
that the items will be locked?
Yes. Yes, it'll be an enclosed trailer. It was recommended to me to get the little bit higher height, so taller people than me, which most people are, won't hit their heads. And we'll have a ramp on the back so we can wheel out our new pump we just got. I bought the kit with the handles and wheel it, so nobody's getting a hernia or lifting the thing up. So.
But there's no place to store the trailer inside, or is there?
Once it's loaded?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can, my goal is to clear out, we call it the old wash bay down at the plant. It's where they used to load the dump trucks. The trailer would fit inside there. We can keep it in there. I can just move the ride. Right now, the only thing in there is rider mower and a couple of snow blowers. We can put those out in the bays out front. I can definitely keep this trailer inside.
I mean, the aluminum trailers don't really need to be housed inside. They are designed to be
It's
exterior.
designed to be left out.
Yeah.
Right.
The only thing you have that's not aluminum is your axle.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
The next thing was, it's kind of a 2-item ticket, sort of, kind of. The one thing was to get the new Neptune 360 software installed. We need that at the town hall for billing purposes and for reading purposes. Right now, the Neptune system that we have, it's no longer serviced. So if we have a problem with it, we're kind of screwed. But the new software, they will service it. It'll be much easier. It should make life easier for the people who do the billing. So that would be the software, training, the reader, the new reader that works and connects. So right now when we do reads downloaded onto a handheld, there's been issues and it's hard to try to get the download, the sync up. This will be one less piece of equipment in the middle taken out. So just basically we get the new reader, hook it up, it automatically downloads to the computer at the town hall, transfer it to there. And
It's cloud-based.
Huh?
It's cloud-based, so once
Yeah,
it
it's all
connects-
cloud-based. It'll be quicker and easier for Michelle to do her billing. It'll make it much easier for us too.
Questions on this one?
Nope.
was that answered from?
So the
One
next
second.
request was.
One second, Pete.
Oh,
There was a question about this because you had this in variable. Oh, never mind. Go ahead. Go ahead. You're good.
okay, so the second part of this kinda is, I would like to see us switch all our meters out. It's a request that the water department has. Basically, we'd switch out our meters to new Neptunes. They're T10 Pro coders, and also to get with it, the wall mount radio frequency boxes. So the advantage of this would be, once we do them, if we do them, we can read the whole town, all the meters in town in about 10 minutes. And the other advantages to that would be, because they'd all be radio reads, they're more accurate. Right now, the current meters we have measure down to 1/100ths of a gallon. With these new ones, they go to 1,000ths. The advantages is we can do things like, if we knew there was an area where there's some people that are always, why is my bill so high or whatever, we can just drive by, do a read. We can tell if people, basically, because it's measuring so low, if they're not home during the day but their meter's turning, they have a leak. I mean, it's an advantage to the residents, it's time saving for the town. It will perfectly link up with the Neptune 360 software we'll be putting in, but there's a cost to it. And then there'll be the time of us installing the new meters, which currently right now, the meters that we do have in the system, they're, like I said, they're older, they measure hundredths, down to 1/100th of a gallon. Right now, as we're replacing meters, we are putting in the newer meters, because you can't get the old ones anyways. So, moving forward, it would just bring us more modernized, up-to-date, more accuracy.
So the 270 is number of users that you have not upgraded to the T10 yet?
We've done, it's got to be close to 20 so far, because just as we have to go in when people have bad meters that are reading right now, we'll go in and switch them out while we're there. We're switching the meters, we're switching, going from a 2-strand wire to a 3, we're just not using that 3rd strand. So as we're going, we're kind of preparing ourselves. So if we do decide to go all radio reads, the only thing that we'll have to do at that point, we won't have to go into the house. We'll just take off the button on the outside, put the radio frequency box on, and then that's it.
Yeah, I get that. My question was, is the 270 in addition to the 20 that you've already done?
No, then would be about 250.
Okay. Because and you did both components, the wall mount and you're getting the T10 on all of those 20? Because they come in tandem, right? Or
No, you have to buy them. There's two separate. You buy the RF readers, and then you buy the meters. To do the radio read, you need the RF readers. Right now, we're just doing the meters.
So then, Pete, your quote is for 270, but you're saying you need 250. So is that
For meters, we've
Okay.
already put in about 20.
okay? So did we get quoted with the extra because you want to have more on the shelf, or?
No, we can go down to the 250. This quote was done before we even started doing it.
Okay.
There's a breakdown. I have what it costs per meter. We'll just deduct it. That's all I said we'd have to do.
Yeah, it's on there, 181.54.
Yeah, it looks like
Right.
this one was from December.
Yeah. So that's why I was
How many
wondering.
more meters do you have on the shelf right now? New these ones,
Probably
roughly. Is it 1 or 2, or is it 10 or 20?
6 maybe.
Okay. Because those are queued up too, so that number keeps coming down.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking.
I was gonna say, when you're submitting, it would be helpful if that kind of information was included in your submission. Because as capital is looking at this, we're looking at this number of 270, and it's already dropped just by 20, just talking here. So that's, a chunk of change that it's dropping. And so when we're getting down into the nitty gritty of counting the pennies, and we're looking at it going,
Right.
well, here's, we're down to 20 meters that we don't know you don't need. So having all of that explained out in the capital request form would be really helpful for us as we go through our review process.
Okay.
And we can do some, all, none, but, well, not none, but the other piece missing is like a recommendation on how you would want to do it. I'd recommend doing it all in 1 year. I'd recommend doing it over a couple, or however. I know you've said that there's different ways we could do it and spread it out, but if you have a recommendation, you can add that too, so that we know what you would recommend from capacity, budget, all those pieces.
Okay. I mean, we could.
I'm not asking you to come up with it on the spot if you don't have it. I'm just saying,
Okay.
in revising it, those are things to add.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how long would you anticipate a change out if you were to get the additional 250 to do a full change out and roll out?
The way I would do it would be send out the notifications to the residents, because you're gonna have to basically set up an appointment or time to get in to change the meter. Changing of the meters, they've been doing them, takes like 20 minutes, if everything is working fine. So changing the meters, running the 3-strand wire out, that would be the first step, and then we can go back afterwards and just change the radio frequency, or if we have time that day, so say we only schedule like 4 of them a day, that's all we can do. As we're doing the 4, we can replace everything, but the key is with the radio reads though, we'd have to leave the buttons there until we put the radio reads on.
Yep.
So 4 per day, how many per week? Just roughly, how long? Do you have an idea?
We could do them a couple of, I would say you could probably do 15 a day, 20 a day. It depends on the scheduling with the residents. That's going to be the only key, the hard part.
Understood. So maybe there's some things to revise in here, the numbers and all of that. So why don't you put that in there as well, like an anticipated approximate time. We understand there's pieces to it, but when you're going to get 80% of them done over this amount of time, that kind of thing. So put that together based on, what it takes for what you're recommending, and then we can have that further information to review.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just...
Other
I
questions?
guess,
Or
no, I was just going to say, if you're looking at, is it a 6-month window that you're anticipating doing, 4 a day over every day for 6 months? Are you picking out 2 days a week where you're going to that's what you're going to schedule, and you're going to do 15 a day? That's a lot different than, so there's a whole rollout piece of how long is it going to take, and time on task, and just little things like that hone this in a little bit more.
Okay. I'll get a game plan for that.
was that your last capital request for tonight, I believe? Did I miss one?
No, those are all that I put in.
IT has one for those departments.
Duck and Point.
Which one are you talking about? No, I'm not sure what you're talking about.
IT has missed some of their capital requests this year.
Yeah, IT knows that, but I don't know which one he's talking about as referencing these
Security
departments.
upgrades.
You couldn't help.
treatment
You
plant.
couldn't help.
That's an IT budget.
I
Page.
know, right?
Doesn't it?
I don't know because we didn't.
I think that's what you
Shoot.
Page
Okay.
133.
All right. I wasn't anticipating that for tonight because I wasn't thinking that was an enterprise. It's already 9:10. I know we've run over for a variety of different reasons. We're probably 35 minutes past now, where we should be. Before we go into that, only because of timing and a few other things, is everybody good to stay a little bit longer? Number one, and then number two, just looking at and prioritizing what's left on the list for tonight.
I would ask, is IT truly ready to speak to that request this
No,
evening?
I would like to table that one till the IT time, and I will make some arrangements with the superintendent to have him join me if needed on the IT side of it.
Sure. Not my wheelhouse, but sure.
That's okay. I'll sit in the hot seat. Just you'll be there for support. So we'll carry that one to the IT night.
Okay.
We have solid waste management, property inspections, the overall kind of roll up from tonight and any action items. And then we have the streetlight discussion, which I think most everyone wants to stay in here as well. So I think we can carry the budget items to another meeting if we want to just move to wrap up and then wrap up on the budget discussion tonight and then go into the streetlight one and then call it a night. I think that's probably the best focus unless there's
Are we going to carry
with
the
you.
care drive as well?
Yeah,
it's not on the list.
Yes, it is.
It's under
Keep saying it's not on the list.
what?
It's in your packet.
No. It's not on the table of budget reviews tonight. It isn't because it's not solid waste and it's not property inspections.
I don't know.
That's the list I'm referring to. We have a specific set of budgets that we're reviewing tonight. Those requests are not part of it. Which
So
is
you're
why I
carrying
didn't
that one.
anticipate IT. Yes, we're going to carry that one. Surely also for time. So, thank you. We'll connect on when I need your help. In terms of the review tonight.
Yep.
So we had some hiccups along the way. You're in now?
Mhm.
Excellent. Any feedback, any key action items that weren't captured?
The only thing that I would suggest is, even if we're doing important things at the beginning of the meeting, start the meeting when we need to start the meeting. That'd be the only thing that I would suggest. And get this working.
Yep.
How about it?
It's like a hot potato
I
over
keep
there.
moving it around.
Okay.
I delegate you
I
as our
wish
time
we were
clock.
only 5 minutes late and I
Yeah,
could
I
take
did.
ownership of that extra 5 minutes, but we aren't. I mean, we're doing better every year, so. Any other feedback? Other comments, concerns?
Nope.
Okay, I just have, I'm checking myself to not be as long-winded as I usually am. And Chief Wonka has left, but I like to, this is not the mutual, let's pat each other on the back society. On the other hand, when somebody does a good job, I think it should be recognized. And Chief Wonka can have to watch the video, I guess, but the same with Chief Holst and Pete Sanders and Glenn McCrory. If we come into this meeting, when I come in here, I would have not bet, with all the increases we see in our life, of all the prices of everything, I would have not bet that Harry Houdini could escape from having all those price increases hit our town. And they've done, as far as I'm concerned, a great job of keeping it down so that the taxpayers should be as pleased as they can be, even though nobody likes the tax bill at all. But you're doing a good job, and I'd like to thank them all for it. My opinion.
Thanks, Tim. Okay. Then, if there's other feedback or recommendations or thoughts, you can send them to Brian and incorporate them in future guidance. And then the second to last item is discussion regarding decorative streetlights on Route 2 and proposed additional overhead streetlights. Come on up, Glenn. Back in the hot seat.
So, I think everybody has the memo that was emailed out today from Glenn this afternoon. The select board members have a separate memo that was proposing the Cobra Head project that Capital already heard before, and Capital said just do it if you've got the funding. So we were coming to you to do that tonight. And then this thing happened Friday.
Let's
Anyhow.
focus on this thing,
Yes.
and then, depending
Yes.
on what that lends to, we can break the joint and finish up with this board.
Okay.
Want to give us the overview?
Sure. A couple weeks ago, I got a call from the Mass DOT structure and sign department. They typically, this department was put together when the overhead signage, like on 91 you see, there was a collapse on them a few years ago. So they put this department together to go out and inspect any structure that could fall in or on their state highways. Our decorative lampposts fall under that. So they came out to do the inspections all last week. And they came up, it ended up being 13 out of 40 structures that are in immediate need to come down because of the size of the cracks at the bases of them. They range anywhere from a 2.5 inch long to 7.5 inch long, a 1/16 inch wide to a 1/2 inch wide of structures. They're decayed at the bottom. These were what, early 2000s
1999,
they were put in. So 24 years of salt off the edge of the roads, weather, everything else, has brought these, the ones that are identified already, to immediate needs. We have 4 of them that are down now that have failed over the past few years. One of them had broke at the joint, which is on at the municipal lot, where we took just the top half off from it and we capped it. We had one that was hit by a motor vehicle out in front of the fire station, and 2 of them up near the Welcome to Erving sign came down in a windstorm. 2 years ago, I think. There's a huge cost difference in these from when they were put up to what they are now. Right now, they're about a $9,000 structure to replace one. Each.
Ouch.
The way that these are wired, I don't foresee a safe way to take these 10 out and get them daisy chained back together so the rest of them work, because the conduits come up out of the ground and they go to each fixture and they just keep going on down the road. So I don't see where there's a safe way to remove the structure, have an electrician hook these back up and keep everything lit that way it is. These start out at the Arch Street intersection in front of the historic building. That's the first 4. Most of these are all in the eastbound lane. And then it skips to one in front of the candy store. And then there's 8 of them up on either side of the Welcome to Erving sign, and then at the front of the town hall. This was not on our radar. This was not on our plan for this. So as I talked to Brian last week, as these reports were coming in, it's going to be a lot more cost effective to reach out to National Grid, see if we can get permits to put Cobra heads back on the utility poles. It's not going to light it up like it is now and has been for the last 20 years, but they will put light on Main Street, on the sidewalks, and on Route 2. If we do them at every other pole, I think we'd count, what, 12 or 13?
12, yeah.
I think is what we figured out last week, instead of 40. So it does make a big change in it.
A little bit higher up, though, cast further, right, than these
Correct. And it would be the same LED fixtures that we have now, like
elsewhere.
in town.
This is the only lighting, road, that type of lighting that's there? There's none on the poles, right?
There's
It's just
nothing on the
decorative.
poles through there. It's only these.
Did you say 13 that are immediate?
There's 13 of them that are immediate.
Is there 9 on here? Or is-
No,
the
you have
first
1
one's
through
1 through
4, and then the rest of them.
Okay.
Can we do a partial?
No.
So like in front of the fire department, town hall, keep that area and take the ones by the
It's,
air.
it's because they're all, the way that they're all wired together,
We just got that fixed not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
it didn't fix the it fixed the
Fixed the
wiring.
wiring.
Fixed the wiring in the handholds and in the lights. This has nothing to do with the wiring. This is the structure of
I
them.
understand that.
So, but to take one off, now you have an open. You have open wires that you've got nowhere to protect, to put out of the way of some kid or some adult walking up and flicking them and playing with them.
Yeah,
It's because they're all
you
secured
have to
under
put
the
some
base of the
structure
lights.
over it to.
So I kind of know where I think where Pete's going with this. As someone who lives in that area, that is our downtown. And so having something that is a little more decorative and that stands out and eye-catching in that area, I personally feel there's too many, but I would like to see something. So I guess I would ask, I totally get these need to come out. I completely agree. If it's a safety issue, it's a safety issue. Is there something as a decorative replacement maybe that is solar, something that we could designate certain areas in front of the fire station, the historical, maybe a little more spread out in the
So-
same areas that we could look into doing as well as or in addition to the Cobra heads?
So we can, getting them to match, so we don't know what the concrete looks like underneath. with them also, if they're decayed, if the mounting bolts are still gonna be able to withstand, another light. But we can certainly look into that.
I think to do this, you're talking likely removing all of the existing infrastructure and getting that cleared out of the right of way, because MassDOT's not going to want us to abandon
Right.
partial structures in their layout. And then it's the agreement that you all need to have, and the voters have to say, yes, do this, to fund whatever the replacement plan is. It's the order, the production time, which on Lillian's Way took 3 months to get the materials in, and then it's to put them in. So you're probably talking a good 6-month project from whatever you agree to fund to when they're in the ground. And that's probably quick.
And I would
All right.
assume if 13 of them have identified as being poor, these are all installed at the same time, is that correct?
Yes.
So in all likelihood, within a year or two, the rest or more will fail.
There was some that were not on their list, that when I walked them today and got all their numbers off the pole, because they put their own numbers on each pole, that you could see cracks actually up of it. There wasn't on the structure base, but there's hairline cracks like 2 and 3 feet up.
Okay.
But if we take these, 1 second, if we take these out, we gotta take them all out. Or we're gonna find some way to put some structure cap and rewire all of it together, so it's gonna be, it's not simple no matter what.
It's my understanding right that, I'm sorry.
I cut in front of Jim, so I'm gonna let him go first and then you.
Are they giving you a timeline on when we have to complete this work?
So there has not been a date set, he just said immediate attention. So there was no time frame other than immediate attention.
This feels like the Church Street Bridge letter. Till the letter comes, you have,
Correct.
Right,
but after the letter comes,
boom.
yesterday.
Right.
But it sounds like the letter might not take so long this time.
Probably not.
I'm not an electrician, but it seems hard to believe that there's no way to remove the pole, secure the wiring, even if you concrete over it, for the 13 that really need to be done. Again, I'm not an electrician, so I'm not giving electrical advice, but it sure seems like there's a way to cap the 13 that need to be done immediately. And another thought on replacing the rest, rather than just having a few overhead lights from the electric company, those are put in with an enhancement grant. I don't know if there's any kind of grants available to enhance things like they used to be, but solar's a good idea. I mean, that's the big thing now, and it slows people down. There's still people go too fast through the center of town.
I agree.
But tourists are not from around here. They come along at night, and it's like, whoa, we're coming to something here. It's not just dark until you're right in front of the fire station. I would certainly recommend the best that I could that we look into getting something to replace them other than
Oh,
just.
I'm not saying that we take them out and leave them out by any means. I
Yeah.
know they need to be there, and I know that people, the residents, all look forward to having them there. And when they were shut down, we were having electrical problems. There was a lot of upset people, and
Yeah.
I've come through there at night also, and
Okay.
you notice a big difference when you're used to them lit up. So I'm open to any suggestions to whatever you
I
like.
think what Glenn's trying to communicate is that there may be a gap between this immediate action we must take and whatever solution you all approve the voters fund and we can put in the ground. And that time in between, we don't want it to be dark. So it's I think that's the question.
I think Dan's point is, or if I may, is that what can we find for an interim solution? Because I think we need to consider a holistic replacement of all of them. Different spacing, different technology, whatever that looks like, but that's a big project. That's a year, probably. By the time we really get it all done, could be a year.
And MassDOT's looking for a big project in what, 29, 30?
2030, 2032, somewhere in there.
Like 5 or 6 years also.
But the difference between we have to pull 13 out, now we have,
Right.
and just to be clear, this is cemented in stubbed conduit, right?
Correct.
So there's no hole.
There's no hole.
These are concreted in conduits sticking out of the sidewalk wires,
Right.
and those have to be reconnected or none of them work. Right. So we have,
And to be
and
able
we
to
have
be
to
secure.
do something about them from a safety standpoint. So
Glenn, the only
we've got to
thing
find an interim. So I think
The
maybe
only thing I
find.
was thinking is if those 13 are removed, if you could find some sort of, like a bollard that is, a cast iron bollard that has the access panel, so you can still have the wiring in there It's just not feeding a light. It's just simply a stubbed out conduit box, but it's decorative and it looks sort of like the other poles and it holds it. So you can't concrete them over because the moment you make a connection of two wires, you have to have access to those.
I got you.
It's not a solid wire, so you have to have access to
Yeah,
it.
I don't think any electrical inspector would allow something like
So I
that.
said,
No,
I'm not an
but,
electrician.
but some sort of
Me neither.
pole baller that holds the connection.
Yeah.
Can you reach out to our, like, either some of your contacts from doing streetlights, you know, our electrician, and you know, contractor that we use, and just ask them to come out, take a look with you, or
Absolutely.
explain the problem,
Yep.
and that we're looking for something that hopefully is not, you know, really awful to look at, but that would get us a little bit of time to keep them running without these ones actually being light poles any longer, safely.
How were the last two by the Welcome to Erving sign capped off? Because the cement, it's on the other side of the guardrail, but it's just,
We have an orange barrel over them.
you don't sit in front of the fire department.
Mm-hmm.
But the connection's made there.
Correct. It's just that the barrel's over them, yes.
Yeah, okay.
The broken base is still sticking up underneath the barrel.
Glenn, is this something we hire someone to remove, or is this something you guys do?
No, we could remove them. We would just need an electrician, I guess, to come make sure everything is disconnected.
Well, and when they're removed, now you've got wire and conduit sticking out of the sidewalk.
Right.
It's a safety hazard.
Well,
so
I just-
there's more to it. The
I didn't
removal
know if we were
maybe, but
hiring someone to come in and remove them, or if it was something the highway department did for us.
No.
the actual.
So I didn't know if there was an
Light.
additional cost
Right.
of hiring someone to come in and take them down.
So I mean, clearly there's a now that we have to figure out. So chase that down.
We'll reach out to the
As soon as
couple
you get
electricians and-
something else formal beyond what you've already shared, let us know. You know, so we can stay on top of it. Separately, we also can start looking at what's a project and how do we want to approach that.
And unfortunately, they're not like on every other one. They're in groups. These are in like groups of 3 and 4 at a time. So if you take them out, it's going to leave that area real dark. If there's a way to take them out and still make the others function, it's going to leave most of these areas pretty dark.
If we find a way to cap them and keep them running safely, we could always consider redistributing a couple of the ones that are not broken if the mount points and things are okay. If we have to kind of avoid having complete black spot, you know, dark spots. But we've got a lot to figure out.
Yeah, my fear in that is trying to move some if they are not good. Once you disrupt them,
Yep.
then you're probably gonna end up with more stress cracks. But certainly
More spacing.
Quick question. When this was done by the select board back in 99, 2000, they worked with an engineering firm. So we have conduits under Route 2, it had to be in the survey. So I think there was a need for an engineer to do that level of work. If we're considering solar or some other alternative where we could abandon this need for all this underground infrastructure, we may not need an engineer to do that level of work. We've worked with consultants in the past on LED lighting, and I'm wondering if that changes the consultation that we may be seeking, because the installation and the equipment that we would ultimately procure would not match the need of an engineer. Are you okay with me getting some cost estimates from potential consultants that can help do this? Just understand cost. I don't know what it would cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
I think any information we can gather to evaluate and come up with a best solution down the road. Now,
Right.
you may spin your wheels and get all kinds of information. We go, this isn't going to work for us, but at least we know that answer.
Agreed. Okay.
and if there's incentives or anything from utility, I don't know if it applies, if they're not grid connected, but
Right.
what's out there, right? There are a few different paths to take.
Okay.
If we have to call a meeting and deal with some things sooner, we can. Obviously, we have building funds and things like that, depending on what we have to do, but overall, unexpected project. We'll get as much as we can together and start trying to formulate a plan.
Okay.
So, does that, excuse me, for the greater group, because I know the additions that some that were identified for safety and other reasons that hadn't been put in yet, there was a strong discussion about to get them done. Does that put pause on that for anybody? Because we have
To-
funds for those.
fu-
We
the
don't have
funds are there
funds
for that,
necessarily for whatever this new
To
thing
fix
is.
the ones where I had to break out a tone to get them fixed.
Uh-huh, those ones.
Yeah, no, those need to move forward.
There was a tone.
I was told I had tone, so.
Really?
Before we we can break if there needs to be a lot of discussion from the board on these, but that's the first half of this memo. I think. Is there anything significantly different about this from all the discussions we've been having? These are them.
Are you transitioning back to the board packet? I didn't know where you were. I'm sorry.
Page 40.
Thank you. Because
I said the additional ones, the tone ones. We have the list of them, and I don't want to keep everyone here if the board wants to discuss it at length on the locations and all of that. But this is a project that's been ongoing that we've already discussed, that we funded, that we plan to do. So if there's no significant changes, does the board have questions or anything on the proposed additions?
No.
Okay. Are you looking for a vote to put them in
Sure.
or go ahead?
Just go ahead.
Go ahead.
Make a motion that we
So-
have the additional overhead streetlights installed as listed in the memo.
Oh, you were actually making a motion.
I'm going to make the motion. He asked for the motion.
Okay.
I got him, but it's fine.
Okay.
So we just need to reach out to
Is there a second?
Eversource and
Second.
National Grill.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay. We'll get it done.
That close out streetlights for tonight?
Sure.
An estimate on what's going to be left in our streetlight fund after this work would be helpful with the mitigation
It
stuff too.
gets like for around 20,000 maybe.
As
Well,
you're
we're done
gathering
buying.
stuff.
All right. We'll get you an update.
Okay. Other than that, what's the treasurer want? Is that all I have left on here?
That's it. And you could pass and report out next time if you'd like.
We'll pass over the treasurer on it and advise on it next meeting. Any other discussion for tonight?
None.
Motion to adjourn at 9:33.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Aye. Thank you all. Have a good night.
You too.
Glenn,
Yes.
just out of curiosity,